Good morning everyone, welcome back to Piccadilly. Now this is the video where I'm going to dismantle this as it is, because this was the test module for the lift. I'm not going to show you it running again, that's in the last video. If you want to see that, take a look. But I'm now going to disconnect the running board or the lift section. These tracks, if you like, both of these, and they are going to be mounted one at the top and one at the bottom, because the whole board is going to sit on a horizontal plane. Okay, and then it's going to be a case of remounting the actuator in that plane. So obviously it still go up and down, but as I just said, the board will go horizontal, not in the vertical plate it is at the moment. And then I'm going to put some legs on it. All right, there is going to be a little bit more fiddling about to do with this, because the lift section on the real thing is going to be quite a bit longer, and there's a possibility there might be some flex in it. So I'm going to put some 2x1 underneath that to give it some extra strength, just to make sure that it doesn't bow in the middle. All right, so let's get this taken apart. So the first job is to disconnect all of the wiring. I'm not going to show you literally every single step, because I mean quite a bit of this is fairly obvious and I think it won't be difficult to work out, but some parts of it I do appreciate will be a little bit more complicated. Right, so next thing I'm going to do is take out the actuator, which is using these split pins. So close that up and bring that through, and the pin just pops out. Okay, now just for the sake of not keeping those parts safe, just going to pop those back in and do that at both ends. Okay, so I'll join you back in a second once I've disconnected the other end and the actuator's free. So I'll put that to one side. Right, so as you can see now, I've taken off the shelf that was there. You might still be able to make out holes. The other one there. So they're both gone. And like I did before, the actuator has now been disconnected. Now, this goes to show how this works. So you've got two rails, obviously, and then you've got these carriages. Now, inside there are some ball bearings. Like that. Yeah. So there's three bearing races in there, and it's an ingenious design. And obviously this is a piece of black nylon by the looks of things, that liner inside there, because obviously that's a bearing surface, just in case, or to help keep the bearings in place really. But yeah, you get 4 of these with the kit. And so obviously with the test piece I just mounted it with 2, but I think with the real thing I'm going to put 4 on. It really does depend on the length of the rails. I bought 500mm rails because it has to travel 400mm, so I thought I'd buy 500mm, but in hindsight I really wish I'd have bought 600 or 700mm. But we'll see how much space I've got. I might have to mount them so they're almost touching each other, and then sort of bolt them together with a plate across the back or something. But we'll just have to wait and see how much space I've got, and I won't really know that until I've put the legs on, and then we'll see how much space I've got to take above, because I said I'm going to put a piece of 2x1 bracing on the bottom of the real shelf to stop it from bowing. So it depends on the heights, but worst comes to the worst, the actuator doesn't have to sit dead straight like that. It can sit at a slight angle and work like that, if that makes any sense. The shelf will still go up and down because it's guided by these rails, and although you can see that one's rocking from side to side, it's actually rigid. There's no play whatsoever in that vertically or horizontally, it's only sort of rotationally. But once those two are locked together, there is no play. But although it's a little bit noisy, you can see that is quite a smooth moving action there. Right, so my next job now is to dismantle that, get the two rails off, get the plate, get the board off, get that bracket off, and also again the bracket at this end, get both of those off, and store those away obviously, and remount those brackets either end down here. Now I'll put one on and I'll show you the process I go to in putting the other on in a bit. All right, so I'll get one on and we'll take it from there. Right, welcome back. Now, I'll be honest with you, I actually gone through and made the lift completely. But I wasn't happy with it because the rails were causing juddering as it was going up. Not massive juddering, but nevertheless, there was a slight judder all the way up. And I want to try and get it running absolutely smoothly. And one of the reasons for the juddering was because it wasn't running well bolting these two together with a piece of wood between, which is what I tried initially. So what I've actually done is I've super glued these together, okay, and doing that by putting them up against a piece of wood, obviously super glue on one and then just pushing them together and pushing them against the wood at the same time. All right, so they're fixed. And although I'm not going to show you, but the rails I had quite far apart, and I think that was part of the problem. And also the piece of wood that I had just isn't strong enough. There was a lot of flexibility in it. Now I did say about putting a piece of 2x1 along it, and I've actually decided to put a piece of 2x2, and that's going to be this piece. And the reason for that is because it's got to be absolutely solid. Now the third reason I'm going to do it again was because the brackets are used, not these brackets, actually I'll show you. It was these brackets from Toolstation, and they're fine brackets. They do the job, but they caused a lot of flexibility. Now if you see this one, it's obviously a bigger bracket, but it's got this bit in the middle. And when I looked at the photos of these, it also had the bit in the middle. But I was sort of committed to buying these at the time, so I'd given them a try. And I went back to Toolstation today, and the manager said to me, just bring them back. I said, well, I've drilled holes in them. It doesn't matter. He said, just bring them back. So thank you so much to the manager at Toolstation. I really appreciate his help on that. And he's very kindly done me a deal on a new pack of bigger brackets. So I'm really appreciating that. Now that's got this notch bit in the middle, so that hopefully should be solid in its own right. The fact that I've glued those blocks together should also help. But you'll notice though that the holes, the 8 holes, not the middle one, because that's obviously got nowhere to go. Yeah, you can see that if I put a bolt through there, it's just going to end up going through that middle bit. I suppose you could get a small bolt in there, but it's not really going to be a lot. But you'll notice the holes are nowhere close. I mean, although those two are, these two, but they're not absolutely in line with each other. So what have I done? I've made a template. I've got to cut it out, but that will help me to get the holes in the right places. You can see that when I put that over the top of there you go, all those holes line up perfectly, or pretty much perfectly. So they're 5mm holes, and the bolts are M5s, 5mm diameter. So when I come to mark it on here, I'll use that template to mark on where the holes go. Yeah. And then I'm going to drill 6mm holes into this, which will then just give me a little bit of leeway if I need it. And then I can make sure that these are perfectly square when they're bolted to that. Okay, I could, and I might do this because they're going to go that way round, obviously. It'll be sitting like that, so that that flangey bit is sort of back the other way. I could always put a bit of glue on, super glue on there as well, just to help it and bolt it at the same time, so that there's less chance of this moving on the bracket. That was part of the problem as well, because I put these on each one of the carriages, if you like, and then sort of put a piece of wood between and screwed it. And obviously the weakest part of that is going to be the wood. Although it was solid the first time, as things went on, it just got progressively more wobbly. So I'm hoping now to go back to having complete metal. I've even bought these extra strong rails, which I'm going to bolt between the two runners. But the other thing as well is I'm going to bring the runners in. I've got them around about 1200mm apart at the moment, and that is just far too far. So I'm going to bring them in to around about 1 metre, so that I'm hoping maybe even a bit less than, maybe 900mm apart. I'll have to have a think about it, but I will let you know how far apart they're going to be. And I will also let you know if it doesn't work. All right, I will be open up front about it. And there is still the possibility, after putting this up on the internet and seeing the lift working beautifully, there's still the possibility I might end up going to ramps. I hope I don't, and I really hope this works, and I'm going to work like a Trojan to get it to work. I can't see why it shouldn't work, but particularly as I'm bolting these together, I've now got a bracket, that one bracket to bolt those together, to hold those solid together. I've got the steel rod going between them, nuts and bolts to hold it all together, and I've got loads of these extra brackets to give extra support, but I can actually use these to bolt to that cross rail that I've just showed you. So in theory, it should be absolutely rigid. So if I get that rigidity in the running rails, then there won't be a problem, because the actuator will just do its job. All right, so I'm going to leave it there for the moment, and because it's actually Monday night now, and I've spent most of the weekend trying to do it and didn't get very far. So that's why you didn't get the video on the ramp, the actual building of the ramp. So I'm aiming for this coming weekend, but again, there's no promises. All right, anyway, I'll leave it there for the moment, and I'll crack on with the work, and I'll catch you soon. Right, there we are. There's the runners now done on both of those, and you can see they're opposite partners, if you like, and all these extra brackets are now bolted on and tightened. Now, what I'm going to do now, I will show you this, because this was the disaster of how it was. I put the runners at the ends of the board there, as you can see, and as I said to you before, it was a bit of a failure, really. I didn't want to go ahead and show you that video, because it really was a disaster. The carriage was literally juddering its way up, and you could physically see it juddering, and then it would jam as the whole lot would literally just lock like that. So that's why I've gone for this type of affair, where these are now bolted. This is solid metal. I mean, these brackets are 2mm thick going on 3, and that is those brown bars are most definitely 3mm thick. Okay, so, and there's 6 bolts on that one, 4 bolts on that one, and obviously the whole carriage is being held on by 8 bolts there. plus 4 bolts for this bit and 6 bolts for this bit. Now, what I'm going to do is once I've moved these runners in, and I'm going to put them around about there, I think, give or take. All right, so I'm going to bring them in by quite a lot. Sort of about, if you can see the halfway line there, probably about a third of that in, give or take. We're going to have a think about it. And it might take some experimentation to get that. I am going to use a piece of 2x2 on the shelf itself. I'm going to screw that on and then possibly relocate the bracket. Okay, I'm going to have a think about where to put that bracket. I might even mount that bracket on top of the 2x2. We'll see. Depends on how wide it is. It looks a little bit on the wide side. I'm looking at the screws actually there, and that does look a little bit on the wide side. It wouldn't be strong enough. So I'll have a think about it. I might just notch the 2x2 out so I can house that in, but we'll see. All right, anyway, I'll catch up with you soon. I'm going to move those runners first. That's my next job. And then we'll take it from there. All right, thanks. Just started to mount the runners onto the board. So it is wider than it was before. That one's not fixed. This one is, I've got 4 screws in it. So there's 2 there and 2 underneath the carriage. Now, I've put it so that it's about 1 centimetre from the edge of the board. That's 1 centimetre gap there. And the reason is because I've recently checked that when the carriage goes down like that, it stops about 1 centimetre short of the end of the rail. Now, I've said previously, I wish I'd have bought a longer rail, but I didn't. So if you have a 4mm or 400mm travel, I would recommend a 600mm rail. So it's at least 200mm longer, but I didn't know these things and I'm trying it for the first time. So I'm going to have to make it work, and it'll be fine. So anyway, that's so when the board ends up flush with the top of this, there'll be some brackets on this, and that will be then screwed to the underside of the layout. So the board will be directly on top of that, and that will land flush. Okay. Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'll mount both carriages onto the board, and then before I put the screw into that one, and then just check it locates, put 1 screw in, and then I can make sure it's parallel all the way down to make sure it's nice, easy running, and I can adjust the runner accordingly. So hopefully it gets it nice and parallel and level. All right, so I'll come back to you shortly once that's mounted and done. Right, there we are. Finally, it's running smoothly. There doesn't feel as if there's any judder or jolt in that whatsoever. I think what happened on the previous version was the fact that the runners were ever so slightly off parallel, even by half a millimetre would have bound it up no tomorrow. And I think that because the brackets were wobbling slightly, I think the combination of that plus the short carriage, it was just all acting against each other. There was just far too much flex. I mean, there is no flex in that whatsoever at the moment. What I am still going to do is I'm still going to put the piece of 2x2 on there and mount that on, and I will just notch out probably about 3 to 4 millimeters depending on the height of that screw over the top, notch it out, and then screw it in from this side all the way along just to give it some extra rigidity. I'm thinking about whether to put that rail on, that metal rail across there. I'll see what it's like with the 2x2. I might just attach the actuator, see how it works, and if it's smooth and there is no trouble whatsoever, I might just leave it like that. But if it does start binding in any way, I'll put the rail on just to give it some extra rigidity. But looking at this, I might not need it. I mean, that is as smooth as the test version, which I was really pleased with. That worked absolutely beautifully. And I think with the 2x2 screwed onto there, that will just make this plank or this panel an awful lot stronger. I mean, that's 18 mil. I mean, it's not going to go anywhere, but there is a possibility it could warp, I suppose. But, you know, it's less likely if it's going to be nearly 3 inches thick, isn't it? All right, so I'll get the 2x2 screwed on, and I'll probably do that tomorrow now. There we are. Finally, it's done. Now, just a quick word on the actual work I've done on that 2x2. I had to notch out around this area here 2 sections where the plates came through and the screws were. And also, if you notice under there, I notched out this piece here so that the actuator arm has somewhere to go and it's not going to be fouling on the side of the wood. Now, a little bit of a word on the electrics, and then I'll show you it working, and then we'll finish this video there, because it's been quite a mammoth making this. It's been a fair few days, probably about 4 to 5 days doing this video, and you can appreciate I just want to get it done and go get the machine done and get it working. Now, you'll notice that the actuator comes with this 2-core cable. In this case, it's got red and black coming out of it, see? And you can just attach that directly to a 12-volt supply. Now, I've got that, which the guy at the local model shop gave to me. I asked him for a 12-volt transformer, and he asked me what I wanted it for, and he said, well, I've got this, and very kindly gave me that. So thank you ever so much, Will, in Rushden. So much appreciated, even though it was quite a while ago, but I do appreciate it even today. Now, that can literally, if you can imagine, say for example, these are your two, well, actually I'll turn it round and you can see. So there's your 2 terminals. Now imagine my fingers represent the 2 wires, so you can have that going and it pulls away and the machine goes up. Now do notice when it gets to the end of its cycle, it won't move any further. So even if you leave it on, it won't move. So don't feel that yours is broken. You perhaps just need to alternate the wires. So when you do that and alternate them around, if you forgive my fingers moving around there, just turn the wires around, you'll notice that it will go down. But that's not very convenient. So what I've decided to do was to use a double pole, double throw switch, or DP-DT switch. And the way this works is, obviously I'm not going to do it now, but you press it one way to go up and the other way to go down. And like I said, once it reaches that, it stops. There are some off switches inside here which kill the power. So it can, in theory, just stay like that, stay in the slanted position for days, and it won't be using an ounce of current or electricity. Now, that does look a complete sight, but I'll show you a wiring diagram, and it actually hopefully it should make it a lot simpler. Right, one of my becoming famous drawings now. So obviously this is the switch, and you've got 6 connections. The actuator is connected to the middle 2, and your power supply, whether it be a modern transformer which you plug directly into the wall, so you have one with the three prongs on it and you literally just plug it in, or whether it be a little more like my type there, an older fashioned type, where you have the transformer with another wire coming off. So you can see the grey wire coming off here, that's obviously going to the electrics, which are over there. See, transformer on the plug, or auxiliary trans, meaning auxiliary transformer, and the 2 wires coming out. Now on this one it's obviously red and black, but I use brown and blue, so I attach those to those 2 connections either side. It doesn't matter which is that side or this side, really doesn't make the slightest jot of difference, and it doesn't matter which way round they go either, because this switch will just alternate the current, alternate the polarity whichever way you want it. So like I said, the actuator comes in to the middle 2, but then you have a wire going from this one to the opposite corner, and from this side to the opposite corner. Okay, which is what I've done there, if you can make that out. Now I've put the brown piece of wire on here to represent the live. I use, for my 12 volt supply, I use grey and this green yellow wire, which I know is an earth normally, but in my case for this it's just a wire. It does the job. So obviously this one goes to the far corner over here, and this grey one goes to the far corner over this side, and you can see the red and black come in on the middle. All right, so hopefully that's fairly clear. Now I'll also be using these to switch the polarity on the track as well, which I'll show you at another time. I'm not going to go into that now, but all you need to do is then decide which one is going to go up and which one is going down, and wire it accordingly. Now my one going up is a single line and going down is a double line. These double pole, double throw switches, or DPDT switches, come in lots of different varieties. I've got some others which are lit. I'm not sure whether they're lit all the time or whether they're lit in one direction and not the other. I'm hoping that is the case, to be frank. But this type is with the centre off. You can get them where they're just that way or that way, and there's a few others. Don't ask me what, but there are a few different types which you could investigate, all under that guise. Okay, right, I think and hope that is clear. If it isn't, just get back to me in the comments and I will do my best to answer. But as you will see, there we are. That's it. You can see it's running very smoothly. There are no issues with running quality. Certainly not anything like what it was like at the beginning of the week. As I said, it was jerking all its way down and eventually just jamming, which was obviously not good. So all the adjustments that I've made using more heavy duty type fittings, making sure that the carriages are firmly bolted together, has clearly worked and all of that. So I'm so relieved. Anyway, when it comes to actually fitting the actuator, I will show you that in the next video. I think this has gone on for quite long enough. This is purely how to put this together and get it running, and we'll fit it next time. Okay, I'm going to close down now. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and do feel free to look back over any previous videos that may come up on the screen shortly. Bye for now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please do like, subscribe and share, remembering to click on that little bell and you'll get notification of my videos straight into your inbox. On the screen you might see some other videos that might take your interest. Okay everyone, see you soon. Bye for now.